Honda gave us some pretty cool wagons back in the day, from the Civics of the 80s to the Accords of the 90s. But some markets got wagons a little bit different than ours. So if you wish your wagon was all-wheel drive, B-Series powered, or covered in wood grain equipped with a picnic tent, stick around and I'll show you 3 of my favorite Honda wagons America missed out on. In February 1996, Honda introduced the Orthia to their Japanese domestic market. It was built on the new 6th generation Civic chassis, arguably the best Civic generation. Now if this was just a Civic hatch with 2 extra doors, or a Civic sedan with a tailgate and a single camera slammer, it'd still be a good car. But the Orthia packs a bee in the bonnet, spins all 4 wheels, and has a plethora of options and accessories you just won't see on anything over here. For the initial 96 model year, the Orthia was sold through 2 of Honda's Japanese dealership channels. Honda used to have 3 dealership channels in Japan, with different models sold through the different channels, some being more upscale than others, kind of like how models are separated between Honda and Acura sales channels in the US and Canada. For 96, the Orthia was sold both through Honda Verno and Honda Primo dealerships. And Orthia models had either a V or P badge on the trunk, marking the vehicle as either a Honda Verno or Honda Primo model. There was actually a few small styling differences between the two, with amber lens turn signals and round fog lights on Verno models, and clear lens turn signals with rectangular fog lights on Primo models. The front at first glance reminded me a lot of the CR-V front end, and it is similar, but the vehicle the Orthia actually shares its front end with is the Honda Integra SJ and its rebadged sister, the Isuzu Vertex, models we've already covered in one of my rebadge videos. Some people front end swap these to the traditional Civic front end, which I do think looks much better. One cool thing about the tailgate is the glass can be opened up separately, which according to the brochure is very useful when fishing for crocodiles. On the inside, it's clearly a Civic interior, but as is common on Japanese market models, the seats have some fun patterns on them. The gauge cluster is familiar, just with some different colors than we see on Civics out here, and even the base model was equipped with automatic climate control, air conditioning, and power windows. Speaking of the trim levels, there were 4 of them. The base GX, which was front-wheel drive only, available with either an automatic or manual transmission, and powered by a 1.8-liter non-VTEC B-Series. Almost the same engine we got in 3rd gen Integra GS trims and below out here. However, Orthia engines are stamped B18B instead of B18B1, and they put out 138 horsepower. Then there was the 2.0 GX, also front-wheel drive, but powered by a 2-liter B-Series stamped as the B20B. The 2.0 GX was also available with either an automatic or manual transmission. Now we're getting into the 4-wheel drive trims. The next model is basically the same as the front-wheel drive 2.0 GX, but now with Honda's dual-pump 4-wheel drive system. When the front drive wheels lose traction, they spin faster, creating hydraulic pressure between the 2 pumps, one pump driven by the front wheels, one by the rear, and torque will then be sent to the rear wheels proportional to the amount of front wheel slippage until the 2 pumps are spinning at the same speed again. The only unfortunate thing about the 4-wheel drive models is you could not get them in a manual, they were sold automatic only.
No! God!
The top trim was the 2.0 GXS, and on top of the previous trim, it adds a 2-tone paint color scheme, wood grain trim on the interior, power folding mirrors, and an early satellite navigation system. Now that's pretty ahead of its time for 1996. One of the other really cool things about the Orthia is the amount of crazy accessories you could get for them in Japan. Let's have a look at some of the highlights I found in the Orthia brochure. First of all, there was this tarp, which I guess you could tie to the roof rack to offer shade from the sun or maybe even shelter from the rain, allowing you to have a nice picnic beside your Honda. Ah yes, camping in my Orthia. These RVs are peasants! Also looks like you could get wood grain on the exterior, which is pretty wild to see, but if wood grain is a little too outdated for you, you could also get some cool pinstripe graphics and Orthia lettering on the side instead. It looks like there were also some pretty cool audio upgrades you could get, CD players, CD changers, upgraded speakers even. I don't even know what wait. Is this some kind of TV? There were bumper guards, a bunch of roof racks, a bunch of cool wheel options, even walkie-talkies, different seat patterns and storage, seat doilies, which is very Japanese. You could get Honda pillows, a blanket thing, and you racers are gonna love this, a Momo steering wheel from the factory.
Stock factory.
You could really deck these things out with some cool stuff. A lot more exciting than buying all-weather floor mats and a trunk tray. In early 1997, the Orthia got drivers and passenger airbags as standard, and Orthia Primos were discontinued, leaving them only to be sold through Honda Verno dealerships moving forward. As such, the V&P badging was removed off the trunk lid, and they all had amber turn signals and round fog lights moving forward. In 1998, power folding mirrors became standard in all trims, and a new trim was offered, the 2.0 GSX Aero. Available in all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive models, this trim package gave the Orthia a body kit with front and rear lips, side sills, and on the inside, carbon fiber accents including around the gauges, a cool 3-spoke leather trim steering wheel, and this absolutely fire black and red fabric pattern. I love these seats. I think I would put these in my EM1 if I could get my hands on them. 1999 was the mid-model update year, although it didn't take effect until June, and the Orthia got new taillights, an updated front end, and a new fabric pattern on the interior. They updated the climate controls to match what was in pretty much every other Civic platform vehicle for 99-2000. I'm assuming this was kind of a standardizing, cost-cutting move. All models now came with the 2-liter B series. It's been updated to make 148 horsepower. They also changed the trim level designations. Trim levels were now B, M, M4, L. Okay, if you're gonna name them stupid letters like this, then I'll have no choice but to pull up my favorite Nicolas Cage clip again.
TUVWXYZ!
Alright, moving on. So the B trim was front wheel drive with a manual transmission, M was front wheel drive with an auto, M4 was the M trim with 4-wheel drive, L4 added onto the M4 trim the 2-toned paint color scheme, standard alloy wheels and wood grain interior trim, and the top S trim, which you could actually get in front wheel or 4-wheel drive, which gave you some of the previous Aero trim stuff like the 3-spoke steering wheel, carbon fiber on the interior, a unique seat pattern, black and blue this time, and those look like EM1 wheels. Again, no manual transmissions with the 4-wheel drive. In fact, no manual transmissions at all except for that very base B model. I know you think that would annoy me, but I'm fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. The Orthia would continue to be produced until January 2002. There was also a commercial van version of the Orthia called the Honda Partner. It was D-Series powered and clearly a cost-cut version, as many commercial vehicles are, with lots of black plastic, steel wheels, and a different tailgate with fixed rear glass and no inner taillights. It actually stayed in production all the way until 2006. I think the Orthia was a pretty cool wagon, and these are old enough to import into North America now. So who else wants one?
White Honda, front floor skirt, aluminum wheels, MD tuner, but open the gate, a nice car.
Thank you.
Accord Wagon, Private Style X, debut!
Okay, now we're going to talk about some Accord wagons. The 5th gen Accord was notable in America for being the first Accord with an available V6 and the last Accord wagon sold here, unless you count this. But you shouldn't. But it was notable in Japan for a different reason. Honda of Japan was like, let's make the Accord more fun. So they made an SIR trim and dropped in an H series. And this trim was available for all 3 body styles, sedans and coupes right from 94, and wagons starting for the 96 model year. Instead of the F22, SIR trimmed Accords had the dual overhead cam VTEC H22A, rated at 190 horsepower. Now while the SIR sedan came standard with a standard, coupe and wagons did not. Wait. They made an SIR sedan with a manual, but then made the coupe and wagon versions auto only? Well, that's their prerogative, I guess. 4-speed auto with an H22A. Sure. Sounds perfectly fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Anyways, mandatory transmission swap aside, some other features of the SIR Accord wagon included automatic climate control, optional leather seats, wood grain trim around the radio and shifter like you'll find in a CL, black headlamp housings, and an improved stiffer suspension. There was even available traction control and a limited slip diff. Notice this badge on the side of wagons. Many of you may already know this, but these wagons were all built in the US at Honda's Maryville, Ohio plant, including the SIR wagons. So we were building H22 powered Accords right here, but we didn't get to drive them. They were all shipped to Japan, and we had to wait 25 years for these to be legal to import back to where they were built originally, because that makes sense. It even says US Wagon on the door, unless it's one actually for the US, then it doesn't say that. Now, when the 6th Gen Accord came along a few years later, there were no more wagons for North America, but for Japan, the updated 6th Gen Accord wagon returned for 1999. And let's just take a minute to appreciate the styling. Now, first of all, I need to point out that 6th Gen Accords were actually a little different in Japan compared to the ones we got. Notice the slightly different front fascia and taillights. They had different style door handles, and the interior is quite different. I would say a little more upscale than our Accords. And if this interior looks familiar to you, it should, because it became the 3.2 TL interior. Now let's check out this wagon. The back features a full-length taillight bar and wrap-around windows with more glass than a high-rise. Look at the lines on this thing. It's got all that bass! The inside of the SIR model featured a leather-wrapped steering wheel, yellow font on the gauges, and judging by that seat pattern, those look like Prelude seats. Like on Preludes, the H series was now a 2.3 liter, and this blue top JDM spec H23A was rated at 197 horsepower. Yee boy, imagine how fast that'd be if they painted it red. Like before though, SIR wagons, in fact all SIR— Yo, no cap though, you just said you wanted red seats. So, kind of a pot calling the kettle black situation here, don't you think? Like before though, SIR wagons, in fact all SIR Accords this time, were auto, using Honda's new S-Matic 5-speed. There was an SIR T trim for sedans powered by the F20B, which was a manual, but no such luck on the 2.3 liter cars. But that's fine, they probably wouldn't have sold well in a manual anyways, right? There may not have been a stick, but for 2000 and 2001, the dual-pump all-wheel drive system makes an appearance, and SIR wagons were now offered in all-wheel drive. You see, despite what Honda of America says, claiming it would break tradition, Honda actually does give Civic and Accord platform vehicles all-wheel drivetrains sometimes. They just don't give them to us. If you want a Honda all-wheel drive out here, you'll have to either pay the Acura tax or the soccer mom SUV tax. So if your family situation dictates that you can't drive two-doors anymore, you could go make outrageous car payments on a poorly built modern SUV, but the CL2 is legal to import now. It's roomy enough to conceive a family in, and it's calling your name. Line up single file, soccer mums. You know you've never seen a wagon this cool before. Oh. Okay, well. Now this next one is probably my favorite of the three. Meet the Honda Civic Aerodeck. Specifically, the VTI trim. This version of the Civic was introduced into the European market in 1995, and it's essentially a slightly altered 1st gen Honda Domani, which is a 5th gen Civic platform vehicle. There were 5-door liftback models and 5-door wagon models, the latter known as the Civic Aerodeck. There were a variety of trim levels and engine options, ranging from D14s to D16s.
Half an engine.
And the one we're going to focus on today, a B18 VTEC in the top VTI trim. A close sibling to the American market Integra GSR engine, this B18 C4 runs with the power of 169 horses. And yes, this one is finally paired to the correct transmission. The interior is much more upscale than any Civics we got out here at the time, but it closely resembles the Domani interior. There are some unique differences though. Firstly, note that the power window switches are mounted in the center console, and the climate controls I suspect may have come from Rover. I've never seen Honda use Roman numerals. The Rover 400 series was also being produced in Europe at this time on the same platform, because as you may know, Honda and Rover produced a number of models in partnership together in the 80s and 90s. It is a very nice interior, with a red stitched leather wrapped steering wheel and this marble patterned slab stretching across the dash as some of its highlights. I like this gauge cluster too, not one we got in any American models. The exterior Domani based styling looks great and translates very nicely to a wagon body style. VTI trims come standard with all the usual power options, plus headlight washers, alloy wheels, a rear spoiler, 6-speaker sound system, and fog lights. There was also a very limited vti-s trim sold in the UK with a production run of just 500 for each body style. vti-s models had more pronounced front and rear lips and side skirts, they had a slightly revised gauge cluster with a more italic font, as well as unique floor mats, badging, and lightweight alloy wheels. In the UK, this model was sold from 98 through 2001, but I think other parts of Europe got this model in 96. Out of all the models I told you should import today, this is probably the best. It's got the B18 VTEC, the proper transmission, and some of them, like this German market example, are even left-hand drive. So now you can't use that as your excuse not to buy one. So what's your favorite wagon I've talked about today? And let me know in the comments if you own one of these.